we can't concede goals like that. If we concede goals like that, we're just going to keep losing every single game. We actually need to be able to grind out a 1-0 here and there. Do you know what I mean? And I don't. It just seems impossible for us to keep a clean sheet. And we look at the chopping and changing in that back line through the season. It's no surprise that we've got very little in terms of a kind of settled understanding between the defenders. Some of that's down to red cards, discipline. Some of that's down to injuries, and some of that's down to poor recruitment and not being able to find players who can actually fulfill the roles. But I'd be surprised if we've had more different back fours in the number of games we've had in the season before. I mean, we must have had 8 or 9 different partnerships in that back four so far this season. Turnbull playing left back. We've had, I think you've gone through the list before, Matt, but the number of left backs we've had start for us this season is crazy. And we seemingly are still bringing in players on trial and bringing in players on short-term contracts. It's got a horrible feel of that 2014-15 season where you're scrabbling around for any kind of solution through unfit short-term contracts. But it's it absolutely have to find a way to cut out conceding these because they didn't have to work yesterday, Doncaster, to beat us. They did a couple of nice moves. They scored one goal. They hardly had any other really shots, and then they just did a lump up front, score the second. They're 2-0 up away from home. It's dreamland, isn't it? You have not even had to really do anything special to get into that position, and that's not what Tranmere should be about.
I think it's probably more than 8 or 9. If you just think of the number of left backs that have been, I mean, it could be closer to 20. If you think that Leake, Wood, Norris, Merry, Turnbull, Pike have all played left back. That's 6 left backs alone, I think I'm right in saying. And then you've got whoever's played at right back, Yarney, Pike, Starbucks come on in that position. O'Connor's played there. There's been a lot of different situations and teams that Tranmere found themselves naming. It's not a stat that I'm going to be prepared to dig up because it would take me far too much time to compare it to other years gone by. But one stat that I did look up last night was how many times have Tranmere had 10 points or fewer after 14 league games. Now, this is accounting for there always being 3 points for a win. Obviously, it hasn't always been the case. There have been 3 points for a win. That only started in 1981. But there have only been 2 situations, where Tranmere have had fewer than 10 points after 14 league games. One of those was way back in the 1920s. So we're going back 100 years to Tranmere's, I think, second season after they were introduced into the Football League pyramid. So that was 1922-23. And the other was 1956-57 when they had 8 points. 8 points after 14 games. They finished second bottom of the Football League with their lowest ever points total. That is not adjusted for 3 points for a win, by the way, but it can't be too much different. But they finished, I think, with 27 points in 56-57. Horrific year. And they only stayed up because of re-election, having finished second bottom in the league. Tranmere have got 10 points after 14 games. Granted, they also had 10 points after 14 games in 2009-10, and they also had it in 2014-15. So there are some worrying parallels and trends there as to how bad Tranmere have been this season. Look, I think there needs to be a lot of concern now. If some fans aren't worried, I'm questioning why they're not worried, because they are watching a team that is not able to pick up points, that is not able to keep clean sheets, that has little cohesion, has failed to respond to the fact that they've changed manager, has failed to respond to the fact that they've lost 3 games in a row. If you're not worried now, when are you worried?
No, and I feel there's a sense of us sleepwalking towards relegation because the alarm bells should be sounding, but nobody seems to be hearing them. The players don't look like a team that know they're in a fight, and I really do think, I listened to Rob Edwards on the pod in the week, Matt, and I do think actually, it's not about hearing from the owner about interviews or I'm going to talk to this player or whatever. It's just a sense of what the plan is here. Are we looking at the moment to recruit a replacement manager? Are we in discussions with Adkins about it becoming up to Christmas or a season appointment? What is the direction? Let's just hear something from him about how he understands the fans' concerns and that we're working to sort it out. I mean, I think just radio silence makes everything worse. And it creates an impression or a sense that there's a lack of care there, and I'm sure that isn't the case. But you know, it's my my PR advice would not be just keep quiet and try not to say something that the fans will latch onto. I would say communicate, open, transparency, be honest, talk, front up, because this is a really really bad situation we're in, and we could very easily get slip out of the league again, and no guarantees that we'd come back this time. Um, I think we're in a weaker position than we were last time we went down in terms of the ability to absorb and pick up the best players in the league. There's a lot more money around there now. There's stronger teams in that division. It's really tough, and we don't want to end up back there again. It was horrible the last time. At least there was an element of novelty to it. This time it would not. We would not have that, and financially it would be devastating for the club. I do like the fact that I think Adkins has at least let the kind of veneer of positivity, that mask has slipped a touch, and he's shown a bit more of an understanding that probably an arm around the shoulder isn't the only thing this team needs. I think it needs a kick up the arse, to be quite honest with you. A lot of those players, and he did say in his post match, Connor Jennings is the sort of player who shows what we need from our players in this situation. The application he shows in the training ground, the effort he puts in every day is the same. And he said some of the players aren't showing that, and I think it's not good to hear that there's players maybe not putting the effort in or down in tools a little bit, but we can see the evidence of it before our eyes. And whether he's alluding to players in the team or whether he's talking about players who are being dropped from the squad, I don't know. But I think we need to see a bit more of that. We need to see some fight. We need to see some tough talking, and because they're not far off the crowd completely turning. So in the game yesterday, I think probably because we've won a couple of the last, it wasn't particularly toxic, I didn't think, given we went one and then two down. And the fact the crowd did really get behind the team when they were trying to pull back at 2-1, and then there was a spell where we quite easily could have got an equaliser with a little bit more luck. But at the end of the game, there was a mix of clapping and booing, and legitimately, fans feel incredibly frustrated at what they're watching. But that can very quickly turn into widespread booing, chants, protests, and staying silent from the top is not going to help that cause. I think we need to hear something, I think, in the next week, about the situation, about what the plan is, about how the club do care and do not want to let us slip out of the league again. And it shouldn't just be from Nigel Adkins. That we should be hearing, we should be hearing from the ownership, I think. So let's hope that there's something.